How you doing, guys? Today we're looking at the side pipe exhaust I made. Now I know when you look at actual puller rules and regulations, the side pipe is not legal. Everybody has to run a stack. And eventually I will put a stack together for this tractor, so when I actually do some pulling, some real pulling, it'll have a stack and it'll be according to the rules. But for me, for fun factor and the way I like to do it, we did a little bit of a open side exhaust pipe. So this thing's still going to be loud as hell. Essentially what I did was obviously put the motor in, put the belt guard in, so I knew where I was going to stay, where I was going to be. The comes off the motor, comes down. I made sure I had enough room right here for a drain fitting so I can drain the oil out of the motor. The little dog leg is there because when you have the tire articulate or all the way to lock and the front axle articulates up to the stop, it doesn't touch the pipe. And then I just made it to go down, and it runs along the lower, below the frame, but parallel with the frame. I did make a little exhaust support. I have it bolted on the inside, not the outside. And the reason for that is eventually I'm going to make a little floorboard right here for my foot throttle, plus to give a little protection from your feet from the exhaust. So that'll bolt on the outside of the frame and come across. I'll just have the one bolt all the way through holding both together, as well as I made my little exhaust tip here so it kicks out and shoots it towards the ground. Shouldn't interfere with the tire. The tire should be somewhere right around in probably this area. Oops, sorry. So here, so I got a good 5 inches, probably 6 inches. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pause the video, put the hood on so you can see what the hood looks like with the exhaust. It actually looks pretty good. And there we go. So once you put the hood on, I think it looks pretty tough. It doesn't stick out too far. So like when you look at the front of the hood, you just see the pipe a little bit. Not a big deal. I'm going to have headlights in this position anyway, so you're not really going to see this pipe that much. And then once you put the floorboard on, it's going to cover most of the pipe too. But again, I think it looks pretty good. I like it, So let me try to take a step back here so you can see a little bit more. And that'll get all ceramic coated, so it'll be nice chrome look all the way out to the back. Like I said, once you start putting more parts on it, it's gonna kind of melt away on the tractor. Should sound really good. Now I'm gonna pull the exhaust off the tractor and put it up on the workbench so you can take a look at the piping a little closer. All right, so with the pipe off the tractor, let's take a little bit closer look at it. So basically, what parts did I use? I used a Midwest Super Cub flange, which I got off of eBay. It was brand new, but somebody just didn't use it. I used 3 of these 90-degree elbows from Kohler. And I bought a piece of outside diameter 1 3/8 pipe. So that way you can get nice smooth joints. And then just a little piece of band iron. Now for the elbows, this is the part number right here. I bought 3 of these. This is a Kohler exhaust elbow, obviously, it's just as it says. But it's designed to slip onto a cast iron manifold on the motor. And what that means is this. When you get it, there's some slots right here. So when you put the exhaust clamp on it, squeezes the pipe down onto the cast iron exhaust elbow or manifold or whatever it is. So I had to fill those in. I welded those in, obviously. There's also right here, if you can see, there's like these little holes where they must mount like a heat shield or something. So I just had to zap that shut too. But it gives you a nice mandrel bent elbow, tight elbow, which is pretty hard to find, when you look around. So they just work out nice. And I used 3. I used obviously the full one right here. I had to cut one in half for the 45s here and there. And then I used one to make the actual tip. Just kind of slashed it off so that way it would just kick out. One thing that you have to keep in mind when you do this is whenever you make a cut on tubing, you got to make sure it's 90 degrees. Obviously, this is a factory 90. When I cut this, this is a factory 90 actually, the end of the pipe. I just filed it down. But that's the only way you get these nice tight joints. So obviously when I cut this one here, I made sure it was 90 degrees. And then when I used this one, I made sure that I got it as close to 90 degrees as I possibly can, even though it was in a bend. And you can see that the joints are pretty tight. I just got it tacked together. I'll go around and weld the piping all the way around. And then I'm going to grind it so it's smooth. So it looks like one solid pipe all the way down and then out the tip. Oh, actually, here's one of those little holes that must have held a heat shield or something like that. I just zapped it real quick with the welder, and then I'll just grind it down. Just used a piece of leftover band iron from one of my other projects. I bolted it to the frame, then bent it, and then just obviously I welded it right into place. So that way, a nice strong attachment. One of the things is, a lot of those stacks, puller stacks, they have a piece of pipe that actually goes into the exhaust port, adds additional strength. It's not needed for this because I have the 2 bolts here, but then I have the stand here. So this exhaust is not going to hang from the port like a stack would. Now, the flange I welded on the inside. I did finish weld this. Let's see. You can see, all right, that I welded, come on, there it is. I welded on the inside. Actually, you know what? Let me get to my flashlight real quick. We'll take a look in there, take a gander. There we go. Let's take that. There you go. I just went around on the inside of the pipe and the flange. I just went all the way around, welded it. Then I took a rotary burr and I ground it down. And then I hit it with a flap wheel on my die grinder to smooth it all out. And as you could tell, I accidentally clipped it with the welder here on these 2 edges, but it's perfectly flat. It's perfectly smooth. There's nothing, there you go. There's nothing that's going to create restriction. And then what that allowed me to do is to have a nice clean exterior, which I'll just polish up and grind down. The one thing I did do, which is probably the only thing that didn't come out very good, to be honest with you, but I didn't really have much of a choice, is once I had to tack it on the outside. All right, when I originally put the flange on the pipe, I had to tack it on the outside to hold it in place. And then the other thing I had to do was I had to heat the pipe up a little bit with the torch once it was tacked and tap it with a hammer just so I can get enough space to put the bolts in without a lot of issue. Now, there is a little bit of a dimple there. You can just see it. Once I ceramic coat it and it's, this is all going to be covered by a heat shield anyways, you're never going to see it. Now, right now, I did the same thing over here on this side too. Just heated up with the torch until the pipe was just like maroon and then just boink. I just hit it a couple times with a hammer and a punch and it just went in. And you can see the weld all came through. So it's penetrated enough. But in a nutshell, there's the exhaust. Like I said, I'm going to go around on another day, not today obviously, and just weld all around nice and slow. Weld here, then go weld the end, then I'll weld over here, then I'll weld over there, then I'll go back over here. To try to keep the twisting of the pipe as minimal as possible. It's going to twist. There's no way around that. But try to keep the twisting to a minimum. That way it will bolt right back up. Then I'll grind them all down and flap wheel them down and then make them all perfectly smooth. That way when I drop it off to get ceramic coated, it looks like all one cohesive pipe. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your interest. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and I will talk to you later.